Welcome back to Write Effing Now. I'm your host, Hilary Jastram. And it just occurred to me, I don't think I introduced myself on the very first kind of re-maiden voyage of this podcast. You kind of fall off of some of these good habits sometimes. So, anyways, I'm your host, Hilary Jastram. We are going to talk about everything writing, and we're not just limiting it to books anymore. We are going full bore into all aspects of writing. Today, we're going to talk about the tools and rules of AI and ethics, what's changed in the world since I took my little hiatus. And the answer is a lot, as I discussed with you on the first episode of the show last week. So, what tools are out there? What do we need to know about these things? How is AI being perceived in the publishing marketplace or in the publishing industry? And you might be surprised at the answer. So we can't ignore the existence of AI anymore. Believe me, I tried. I really did try. I thought, unless it's Rosie the robot from the Jetsons, I don't want it. And sometimes Alexa, our robot, will get a little mouthy with us or overhear us. And Siri never gets whatever the hell I'm talking about. So we can't ignore it. AI is here to stay. It doesn't mean that we can't use it for ethical reasons as well. And also, yes, I'm wearing the same thing because I just recorded these two episodes back to back, the first one and the second one. So if you're like, does this woman ever change her clothes? I do. I do. Just not today. You've got two episodes back to back, but I guess I'll do a wardrobe change in between. I'm also not that, bougie. So you're going to take what you get, right? That's just how it's going to be. You've got to be comfortable when you're doing a show on video. You've got to just let certain things go because otherwise it's going to drive you crazy. So back to the topic at hand. There are some ethical positions when it comes to AI and book publishing. And I do know, for instance, that there was a gal who published a book and she won an award, and everybody was just, very laudatory, like, this is fantastic, congratulations. And then it came out she had used AI. So then the conversation turned to, well, is this ethical? Does she deserve that award? Did she do the work? You've heard me say in the past that AI is the gatherer. Okay. It is not the creator, it's the gatherer. It does not have yet, because it's learning all the time. Although I'm not worried about it. I've done a few tests on it and I'm like, well, you're far from the point of where we should be worrying about this. Because I'm getting, when I test it, I'll be like, okay, make my face look like my chin's not that long. So, in every single picture, it's fine except for this one. So take this picture and like shorten my chin or whatever. And it could not do it. It could not do it. It was like, do you mean like this? And I was like, I do not mean like that at all. Because it would make an adjustment. I was doing a collage and it was me and our dog Java, who I'm just madly in love with right now. And so I was doing this collage and it had multiple pictures of Java and I as an illustration. You can see it on my Facebook page. And in any regard, I would say, okay, in this picture, with Java and I'm holding a coffee cup or whatever, I would describe what the picture is. My chin is not that long. Don't touch any other detail in the picture, but this one. And it would come back and my chin would still, it would be like a micro inch shorter. Or micro millimeter or whatever, micrometer meter. Am I making up a word? I'm coining that. It would be shorter and then everything else would change. Like it, so I'm like, I'm not that worried. However, there are some people who are fantastic at using AI. It doesn't mean that they are fantastic creators. Okay. It doesn't mean that they are fantastic illustrators. It means that they are effective communicators. It means that they are marvelous processors. But the work, I guess in the case of the drawing where I submitted pictures of myself and it did the drawing itself, what that's doing is taking jobs away. So that is how are we changing? Should we be giving jobs only to humans and things of that nature is a separate conversation I'm not really going to get into at this point. As it pertains to writing and as it pertains to book covers is what I want to talk about. If you give AI your own intellectual property, could you theoretically pay a graphic designer? You absolutely could, and you absolutely should. Do you solely need to do that and never use AI for fun little things? I don't think that's the way either. I think that there is a happy medium. Um, so in any regard, that was my little example. Now, as it going back to this woman who won this award, AI is doing the writing. So what's happened with reputable publishers, which I would hope Bookmark would be one at this point. We've worked hard to be one, is that we will not use any AI content. Um, if anything is generated that is not writing, for instance, or if AI was used to help organize content, inspire content. So, for instance, maybe you're writing a book about, you know, well, this is what I'm watching lately is animal attacks. So maybe you're writing a book about animal attacks and you've got, I've got my polar bear attacks and I've got my, Komodo dragon attacks and I've got my house cat attacks, whatever. And AI is like, hey, you never thought about crocodile attacks. And then it's like, did you hear this story about so and so, in these muddy waters of whatever and how they were attacked and rolled or whatever, right? And then I would go, oh, well, that sounds relevant. I want to include that in my book since I'm doing a book on animal attacks. Sounds relevant, right? And so we would use language in the disclaimer that would say some content was inspired by. However, it doesn't mean that AI spit out a story that it had generated itself. And we didn't say, hey, I want you to write me a story about a crocodile attack, right? We didn't say that. We said, can you tell me if there are any other animal attacks that I should be including in my book? That's what we said. So it said, yes, there are, and you should include these types of attacks, right? And so we went, well, that's great. And now our responsibility is to go and Google that. Credible sources only, please, is to go and Google that and say, all right, I'm going to learn about these stories and then I'm going to write about them. And that's very old school. That goes all the way back to when you were in English class and your teacher's like, today you're going to write a story about one day of your summer vacation, your most fun day of your summer vacation, and you sat down and you wrote that story. And that this is not, to my mind, this is not that different. Okay, you're still doing the work, you're still doing the research, you still have the criteria, you're going to credible sources. So you are doing the job of maintaining integrity in this industry. If you approach any publisher and you say, hey, you know what? I had this great idea for a book, but I just couldn't get across the finish line. So I used AI to finish it for me. They're going to go, you're done. You're done. We're not going to take it because you didn't create it. And again, AI will grab from what is already existing. So somewhere out there, somebody's written a story, or it's taking bits and pieces, puzzle pieces, and putting it together and presenting a new story. However, those puzzle pieces are not original. So we've had to come kind of toe to toe with ethics in this age of publishing. where we really haven't had to do that anymore because we did not have the threat of AI and we didn't have the user ability. So it's becoming very easy to learn AI and it's a matter of it learning you. So each time you log in, and I have to tell a funny story because I told my middle son, and I said, "Yep, I tested it because I was like, maybe I can feed, maybe there's a proofing function, right? I can just feed it in and it'll be like, okay, Chicago Manual of Style, latest edition. I'm just gonna zip through here and apply all the criteria. Now, to me, that is not AI content because it's taking existing content and it's removing an unnecessary comma, putting in a period. It might be spelling out a number versus using a numerical digit, for example, right? Which is very different. It is not generating thought and coming across as original thought. So it is retrieval 100%. Um, so, anyways, I was telling my son, I tested it to see if this was feasible. I had an old client come to me and say, I am only interested in the formatting and the publishing services in your company because I'm going to have AI do the editing. And I was like, okay, well, I don't really have a problem with that. You can do that if you want. There's different ways across the finishing line. And you're not presenting this as, the computer or the program did the writing. You did the writing. Are you telling me you did the writing? Yes, you did. Okay, great. You wanted to edit it? Fine. That's fine. That's on you to see if you can challenge it to run it through Chicago Manual of Style. That's completely fine. Not a big deal, right? Um, but that's why I tested it to see is it feasible to just feed it through, and it really isn't. So I started with chapter 1 and I was like, do not make any writing suggestions because there's a difference between being correct. Okay, that's what we want to see. Are there typos? Is there incorrect punctuation? Is something out of order? So for example, the modification is wrong. Okay, that's affecting clarity and that's affecting comprehension. I want to know about those things. Okay. But if you don't like more of a long form style of writing or a formal style of writing or a punchier style of writing or whatever it is, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to know about it because that is the author's voice and that is what we work to preserve. So I told it, all right, listen, get in there and just correct. That's it. And I want you to clearly mark what you're correcting so I can see. So don't just return new content to me. And authors listening, please, for the love of God, use track changes so I know what is the new content when you return your book to me. Otherwise, I'm like, I don't know out of 35, 40,000 words what's new here in this sentence or two, right? So I told it, clearly mark it, highlight it, write it in red, whatever the case is. And the first chapter came back and I said, I told you, do not offer me any stylistic writing suggestions. And it said, I'm sorry, I will try harder. I don't know why it's so funny when Rob robots try to be human. I don't know why that's so funny, but I think it is so funny. I really do. Um, yeah, it cracks me up. So, anyways, it came back and I said, do not make that suggestion again. Second time was a little better, and I was like, okay, well, maybe we're getting somewhere. So I said, okay, here's chapter 2. Do it exactly the way as chapter 1. And if you've ever seen Multiplicity, which is an old movie with Michael Keaton, where he's making a copy of a copy essentially of a human being, and it comes out with some bugs, or even if you've just scanned a copy of a copy in in a scanner, you can see that it's not as good as scanning from the original. It just isn't. And this was the same thing. We started getting away from this criteria, and it would just kind of filter in and trickle in a little bit. This would be missed, that would be missed, and then it started suggesting um, improvement to writing for the sake of like word economy, for instance. So word economy just means I'm saying the same thing as the original content, but I'm using fewer words because we don't need them, right? But that affects style, and that's exactly what I said. Don't touch. So, long story long, I'm not that worried about it. There are tells to AI. I do want to address the M dash debacle that's got us all up in arms right now, which is that an M dash, which is essentially two hyphens, there's an M dash and an N dash, and there are differences. And there is an actual official way to use an M dash. M is in Mary, okay, or M is in Margarita, whatever, whatever you want to call it. There's an official way. The M dash is supposed to operate in the place of two commas. So it's an aside, for instance. You can pull it out of the sentence and the sentence will still be intact. So the first part of the sentence, then the M dash, and then whatever you want to say, and the second part of the sentence. If you pull out the chunk between the two M dashes, you'll have a complete sentence. It is supposed to exist in the middle of that sentence as sort of an additional fact that you didn't want to enclose in between two commas. Okay. So people are saying that AI, if you're using M dashes, that's a tell. But here is a beautiful piece of wisdom from somebody smarter than me. Okay. And somebody said, and I don't remember who it was, but as soon as they said it, I was like, oh my gosh, that is absolutely true. AI is trained on humans. Guess who loves M dashes? Humans. So AI goes, humans love M dashes. And also, there's all this content out there with M dashes. AI, am going to use M dashes. So we kind of get caught up in this cycle. So it's like, okay, we're going to use these M dashes in AI. Okay, that's a tell. You used it. No, because then if you stop using them, what's going to happen? Oh, you never use M dashes. That's an AI tell. So we're going to be stuck in this mad whirling eddy, right? We don't need to be. So I tell people don't worry about that. I just want you to write the way you're going to write. I want you to write how you're comfortable. I don't want you to get all kind of hung up in that. Even if somebody goes, wow, it sounds like AI wrote it, and you wrote it, good for you. Don't change. Don't change. The only thing I can offer in that capacity is who cares? Who cares? It might be my age where I'm like, at this point, I'm like, I do not care. Do you pay my bills? Then you don't live in here. I don't let you in. I don't really care. You can't insult me. Doesn't, because I choose if I'm going to be offended, right? So same thing. So who cares? Like, who are you? The peanut gallery? Okay, doesn't do anything for me. Um, so use your M dashes. I will say one big tell of AI that is not human generated is repetition. It is redundancies. I was editing a writer's work, and at this time, this is when AI was just kind of becoming the big thing. And he goes, um, I'm gonna have AI help me write my book. And I was like, okay, well, let's give it a go. Let's see what happens. We'll see how much we need to edit it or whatever. I would not do that now. I just want to say that on the record. But I did dip my toe in that water. And the number of times the word fostering was used blew my mind. It was probably like 4 times in 45 pages. It was ridiculous. It also felt like I was reading interrogation notes. You know, when you sit down and somebody asks you the same question, but in a different way over and over again, that's what this was. It was just spitting out this repetitive content that it kind of twisted and twirled a little bit. And so you had to have like an eagle eye about it too, which was such a pain in the butt because you had to just like, oh, didn't we just talk about that? But didn't we talk about that like 10 pages back, and wasn't it in just slightly different language? So then it was like, oh, that's got to go. That's got to go. That's got to go. And by the end, the book had been materially rewritten. So this gentleman came back later and he said, hey, I want to do my second book and I want to use AI. And I just said, no, we're not doing that anymore. And it's interesting to me, you know, a part of writing is challenging yourself. It's like, I'm going to go into the crucible, you know, I'm going to walk into the fire right now. I'm choosing to do that right now. I'm choosing to run the marathon, you know, I'm choosing to do this marvelous, I don't know, challenge that you're putting yourself through. I'm choosing to go on Fear Factor and eat a handful of cockroaches, right? I'm choosing to do these things. I'm choosing to bungee jump. I'm choosing to jump out of an airplane. I'm choosing to speak on stage. I'm choosing to do open mic night at a comedy show. I'm doing these things because I want to change in some parts. I want to change. I want to transform. I want to hold my own feet to the fire. And that is why we write. It is another benefit, it is another gift in writing. And it's interesting to me because, you know, people say don't hand out those participation trophies to those kids. You know, they need to earn it and they need to know that, you know, sometimes you lose. Now, I agree with that to a point. Okay. Because I live in the world of moderation. But I agree with that to a point. Kids do need to feel a little pain sometimes. If they're preschoolers, who cares? Go out and have fun. Who cares? But the same holds true to writing because AI is the participation trophy of writing. Okay. I'm not a math genius. I have a friend who is. She is amazing. I don't know how her brain works. I'm sure she can play chess and be like 15 moves ahead. And I'd be like, could someone please explain to me what the rook does? And I accept that about myself. Okay? I accept that about myself. I have some gifts. I have some areas where I know I can't do these things. Maybe not I can't do them, but I wouldn't do them as well. And maybe some of that comes down to like I just haven't done it a lot, you know? But that's my whole point. See, we just circled right back, didn't we? That's my whole point is to work and to push yourself because not so long ago you didn't have a choice. You didn't have a choice. You could hire somebody who could do it, right? Or you could push yourself and you could say, man, I've always wanted to write a book. And there's an author, one of my authors, I've worked with her a very long time, had the book bug bite her when she was in high school. But until then, it hadn't really occurred to her that's what she wanted to do. She got interested in hearing an author talk who came to her school, and then she went after it years later. But something in her took root and she went after it. And these are the beautiful opportunities and potentials that live in us to be able to effectively describe something, you know, to be able to add a skill set, to be able to lose yourself in the beauty, the pure, gorgeous, vibrant beauty of writing. And you did it and you created it. You know, when you push yourself like that, when you join those people who are like you, who love words like you, it's different than using AI. It really is. Even if you're like, well, you know what, I've spent 50 hours learning the thing and it knows me really well and it cranked out this stuff and I think it's really cool. It is not the same. It's not the same. And I can't stop saying that. Use AI for inspiration. Use AI to help you remember things like we talked about in the crazy animal attack stories. Use AI to help you with those things. You know, if I'm writing an outline and I go, gosh, AI, I'm writing an outline on how to teach a boy. I'm trying to think about another subject here, but on how to make hamburgers. Okay. Or on how to run a restaurant. How about that? I'm writing a book on how to run a restaurant, and these are the chapters that I have so far. Do you think I missed anything? Can I add anything to my chapters or to my outline? And it will tell you. It will tell you, why don't you add this chapter on, the way different sauces make different meats come alive or whatever, right? And that's great because you can take that and you can run with it. The ideas that it gives don't end up being the final idea. They are a drop in the bucket of the work that you still have to do. And you owe it to yourself and you owe it to the other writers, right? It's like this unwritten rule that we all have that we are going to keep elevating this art. We're making this commitment. So that's the stance in the writing world. Use it for inspiration. It is not the end all be all. And if you do use it for something that you did not think of, then attribute it to AI. AI helped me with this inspiration, but the words are mine. The journey is mine, right? The crucible is mine. When it comes to book covers, you know, I'm trying not to be so black and white in my thinking sometimes. I want to say the answer is to use a human being. And that's probably the ethical answer. Now, it comes down to cost, right? And as I confessed, this is AI behind me. Okay. I named the show. You can go back and look. Write Effing Now was an iteration years ago, and I reinvigorated it. That's my picture, obviously. That is the logo that I paid a graphic designer to do, down to the font type. So, what did AI add? The lighting, probably made me have kind of a better hair day, the microphone, and the background. I would attribute that as like, I don't know, I'm trying to say like a design revamp or something, or design enhancement is probably what I would say. Can you use it with your covers? Seems to be a grayer area than writing because the writing exists out there. And when you're designing your cover, you're not taking copyrighted content. You're giving it commands. Do this, do this, do this, do this, and it's writing it for it's illustrating it for you, or it's creating a graphic for you. So in those instances, I mean, in let's say that money was no object, use a human being all the time, give humans the jobs. This might be the economical factor might be a barrier to publishing. And so can you use an AI cover? Yes. Will we always say that's AI? Yes. So think about that too, because some people are like, man, I don't want that on my disclaimer in my book. Sure. Sure, that makes sense. That's another reason not to use it. But can you use it? Can you use it to clean it up? I've also used it to be like, I cannot get the dimensions of this cover right. So can you tell me mathematically how wide the spine needs to be with these many pages, and these are the margins, and this is the gutter, and this is, and all kinds of like, jargony stuff, right? And it'll be like, it's this, and this, and I'll go, okay, great. Great. I get it. I do want to say that I do use Grammarly, and I've been using Grammarly for years. I use it at the end of the process. So it helps me with things like it's a catch-all. It's the very last thing I do. So I'll do my edits, get everything done. I spell check it. Then I run everything through Grammarly. Did I miss any periods? Do I have any double spaces? Was there an extra L in this word? Whatever it is, right? It helps me in that capacity. So the function that I use will be correction. Like, is this correct? Sometimes if there's a sentence that's a little like long and rambling, and I'll be like, oh, how do I wrap this up? I might hit that button of the suggestion, but 99.9% is used just as a catch-all, and it's used because I know how to use it, so I know what the rules are to the English language. So if it says, you need to insert a comma here, and I'll go, no, that's actually not accurate, right? You need to be able to rebut the rules because you know the rules. So it's not a matter of like, what is that old saying? You have to know the rules before you can break them. This isn't breaking the rules. This is just saying, like, you're making up rules and we're not doing that. So, can you use that? Yes. Yes, you can. The bottom line is you can do anything. And if what I'm talking about today is not resonating or ringing a bell for you, and you're like, you know what, I still want to use AI, attribute that. That's important, right? But you're not going to find publishers to work with you, not ones that are worth their salt. Do you have to issue a disclaimer? Of course you don't. You don't have to do anything. Is it ethical? Not ethical. It's not honest. We're trying to keep this industry honest. That's why I'm talking to you about these things. I tried to make AI do some editing, do some proofing. It couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. It needed a human being who knew what the heck was going on, right? We talked about AI book covers, and I'm honest with you. I'm honest with you about the background. So this is the gray area. And I think we need to have a line to know when to not cross the line, because if we don't have that line, start down that slippery slope, that line moves, we don't know where it is, and suddenly we're in an environment that is of our own making that is not honest. So you'll have those hard questions. And if you're an editor or a publisher listening to this, you're going to have to push back too and say, it's not how we do it. And here's why. Nothing will ever replace the feeling of working so hard to get across that finish line. Nothing will ever replace it. And there are some times in becoming an author that you're going to hate me. You're going to hate me. I'm going to tell you that, this is a redundancy. I'm going to tell you I don't understand what this means. What did you mean by this word or this phrase, right? And then you're going to revise it, and I'm going to tell you I still don't understand what this means. And that's normal, because when I write a book and I give it to my editor, she does the same thing. She's going to do the same thing. She or he, I've had both, are going to do the same thing. Or they. We're not, gender, whatever over here. Whatever. Whoever, whatever they want to call themselves. They're going to do the same thing. Danny, you could cut that part. Sometimes I get in the weeds. But when I have had an editor, I will get frustrated as well, because they'll tell me I don't understand this either. So when I say things like that, I don't say it because um I am the ultimate judge and I'm sending it back to you and I don't think it's good or anything like that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that in the process of writing that first draft, there are going to be lots of parts that can be improved upon. And you're not going to feel good about it. And that's okay, because you're going to learn to feel good about it. This is an exercise in loving yourself and your skill set at the level that you are, instead of projecting ahead and going, I'm only going to be proud of myself when I reach this point. I want you to be proud of yourself at every point, because you arrived, you showed up, you're doing the work, you're challenging yourself, you're finding the time. You're doing all of those things of your own volition because this is your dream. This is your goal. Okay. That's something to be proud of. That's all a part of becoming a writer. It's part of the reason that we fall in love with it. So I know that we opened a can of worms today. Yes, indeedly do. We did. We opened. And that's okay because we need to. We need to talk about these things. And I want you to hear it straight from me too. I'm never going to be a person that kind of soft shoes or kid gloves it. I'm just that's not my gig. You need to know the truth so that you can make decisions, the best decisions for you. And that said, that's another episode of Write Effing Now. I'm your host, Hilary Jastram. I will be back with you next week. Until then, write on.